All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Around Cranberry Township. I'm Dr. Bulow with Revive Upper Cervical, and today I've had the pleasure of cornering this guy. I've been wanting to chat with him for a while, and the camera angle's a little low, so I wanted you to see his bar. We're going to talk about this. There's a bar and a taco shop. So this is Jimmy. Thanks for taking the time, Jimmy.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely, man. For those of you who may be unaware of the food truck industry, it's kind of blowing up in Pittsburgh. And we're going to go much deeper than a food truck, believe me. But that's how I was first introduced to Jimmy. I saw this food truck was sitting on Rowan Tower was sitting next to the Rowan Tower in front of the driving range, and they set up a permanent restaurant right here in Cranberry on Rowan Road, Mission Mahi. And so when I came in, I was taking some pictures. I started chatting with Jimmy, and it was like, man, his story is phenomenal, and it was really awesome. So you guys got to chat with Jimmy. Jimmy, maybe you could give everybody the quick story of just, not the story, but just where we're at right now and kind of what this place is about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're at Mission Mahi. Everybody that works here is in recovery from drugs and alcohol, including myself. I lost a bar and restaurant in Lawrenceville. It was very successful due to my drug and alcohol abuse, and also being run down by a car when I was wasted crossing the street. But the idea that I had for this place came to me in a rehab facility when God seemed to place me there for a reason, and that was to hear from all these kids that had worked for guys like me, and guys like me being guys that own bars and restaurants that know that drug abuse is going on in the kitchens, and we're okay with it as long as you share with me, or that I'm part of it. So the industry. Not every place is like that, but every place has guys like us in it. Guys like us who are using drugs and drinking while we're working. So it's a dangerous place to be, and these kids all in rehab were scared to go back to work for guys like me is the way I took it. And I knew I had been saved for a reason, and that was the reason. And I set on, that was almost 5 years ago now. And this was my dream to have this place eventually, to give them a safe place to work, and we finally have it. I bought the food truck with this place in mind. I wanted to open a restaurant. I ended up with just a food truck that I always used to, and when that happened, I thought to myself, that God knew best. In the 12 steps, the third step is turning our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. And I remember when the restaurant didn't happen, and I had spent a year trying to get the restaurant together and ended up with just the food truck. I accepted that as God's will. And I said, I guess He wants this show on the road. And the show went on the road with the food truck, and we got a lot of recognition for what we do. We take the food truck to a kids' rehab facility in Gibsonia, where they're sentenced as a second chance, and it's a kids' facility exactly like the adult facility I was sentenced to, that saved my life. And they're there for 2 to 3 months, a lot of them, so I get to see them numerous times. They know us when we pull in, they love us, we spend the day there, and it's my favorite day of the month. We bust some of them out here, the boys and the girls separately, before we opened the restaurant to practice on them. And they decorated the back room with some recovery fish.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah. We might have to show, I'll take some pictures and we'll show them.
So anyway, that's what we do here. Everybody's in recovery, we're a big family helping each other, and it's a place where you can't get away with much either, because we all recognize what it looks like when we're using.
So everybody, that's like, it's funny. I asked for the Cliff Notes, and that was so heavy, so fast. I'm like, you got to be sitting down for this interview, because that's amazing. That's an incredible story, and I'd love to unpack it, because I think there's so many. We could spend like half an hour talking about like 10 things that you just said. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I know that you had told me when we had first sat down, like I'd like to unpack it in like maybe a couple parts, because I just think it's so incredible. I mean, you were talking about at one point that you yourself were traveling on a path towards destruction, and you had a moment where you were like, something's got to change. And what was that, and how did it change for you?
Well, what happened to me in 2012, it started happening when I always say when the adult supervision left. My wife left, and she took my stepdaughters with her, and it was so painful, and it sent me, from using to abusing, seriously abusing. And at that point I went off the deep end. And in 2012 I was in jail as many times as I was in the hospital, I would imagine. I know I was in the hospital 17 times, because I remember a woman had passed and looking at me from across the table and saying, "Mr. Woods, we can't help you. You've been here 17 times." And I would go in there. I was found on the side of the road with a .58 blood alcohol. They said I broke the record for a living, breathing human being coming into Aspen Hospital. Wow. So it's just the year. I lost my bar and restaurant during that year. I totaled both my cars. I was being chased by the police. I'd go to court for something, for alcohol-related incident, and they'd arrest me after court for something else that I did. I mean, it's just 2012 was the most painful year for both me and my family. That I'm having to go through it as well. And I was drinking myself to death. And I walked into Memorial Park Church on January 6th, 2013, and I begged for help. And I wasn't sure anybody was listening. That I just needed a place to go that was safe. Yeah. And I walked in there on Sunday night at 7 o'clock or so, and I slept there in the front pew. And when I walked out the door, I was afraid that I was going to go home and withdraw. And I walked over to Luciano's Pizza across the street and bought a 12-pack and wasn't even planning on drinking. I just needed something for the middle of the night in case I got the shakes. And crossing back across the street, a woman hit me going 35 miles an hour just below the right knee and shot me into that cemetery. And almost took my right leg off, took my right arm and shoulder off, my collarbone, and I had a severe brain injury as well. But I woke up 5 days later in Allegheny General Hospital, tied down, and my mother was there, and she asked me if I remembered the last thing I did, and I said, yeah, and I didn't remember buying the 12-pack. I just knew that because they told me beers shot all over the place when I got hit. But the last thing I remembered was being in that church begging for help. And believe me, I didn't think my prayers were answered at that particular moment.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really even a believer that they could be. But, it took me 6 months to figure out that they were. It took 6 months for all my surgery to take place, for me to face the judge I had been ducking. I was facing jail time. My lawyer told me I was going upstate. It was my 4th DUI. I hit a guy head on. I was .377 blood alcohol, my 4th one. And they were sick and tired of me being me.
So in case somehow you missed that, you're telling me that you had a moment of just a point of crisis, is the way I learned it earlier on in church life, where it's like you either rely on God or you just keep doing your own thing, and you're kind of giving God a shot. You're saying like something's got to change, or you know what I mean? Like that was kind of that prayer.
I was out of options.
And then
I could not quit drinking. I was drinking a gallon of vodka a day. I mean, it was the most ridiculous. And feeling sorry for myself because I was losing things along the way. I wrecked my car, so I knew I was going to jail most likely. I was locked out of my own bar and restaurant. There was a PFA against me from the owner of the building. I was breaking into my own bar and restaurant. I was being arrested once a week. I mean, I couldn't go a week or two without being arrested.
It's pretty incredible, though. There's these moments in our lives where we kind of realize we're not it. We're not in control. And it's almost like, I think you had joked when we first talked, it's careful what you wish for. You know what I mean? It's like you ask for help, that's because you had to be stopped. You couldn't help stop yourself. You know what I mean? It's pretty incredible. And then fast forward now 5 years, and you've got a gorgeous location here. You've got a great community of folks that love and appreciate you. You got a food truck. You're serving kids and folks in recovery. I mean, how has that been? Like, can people? It's probably hard for people to understand that journey, going from that walk of life to like full redemption and like totally different life and manifestation of the fruits of that. I mean, can you give anyone a glimpse of what that journey's been like in the last 5 years?
I got the chills thinking about it. Honestly, it's like I'll stand here sometimes right where I am right now in the morning. I'll have my coffee and I'll stand at the bar here and I'll look around and I'll think to myself, how did I get here, man? This is a miracle that I could even afford to open this place. That business, and we have such an incredible following on the food truck. Not only for what we do, but we have awesome food.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't even talked about the food.
We killer fish tacos.
By the way, he has fish tacos.
So we have an unbelievable following. That all the local churches know us and support us.
It's really cool.
It's been an amazing journey. The first couple years after my accident, I was going to amputate my right leg. I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. The fact that I'm able to even walk is a miracle. Mm-hmm. I had a brain injury so bad I was in a brain trauma facility for a month, and learning how to speak and put sentences together. And I couldn't remember. My short-term memory was horrible. I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't remember. It was a very difficult time. And I
So what, right now, one of the questions I always ask people on the interviews, and for you, it's kind of like, it's almost silly to ask you this question because I think it's so abundantly clear, but I usually will ask people, what is it that drives them? What is it that satisfies them in the work that they do? Sometimes we'll look at one of my favorite quotes comes from Samantha Shetler. She's a real estate agent. We did an interview a while back, and somewhere in the conversation she said, a home is your memory holder. I was like, that's really freaking cool, And her favorite moment is the passing of the keys, because it's a passing of someone building new memories and someone letting them go, And for you, I think you could probably pull so many places, but where do you get your greatest joy in doing what you do now?
My greatest joy is that once a month we take this message to a kids rehab in Gibsonia. And when I was working on the truck, other than sharing with the person that I worked on the truck with, which is usually only one person, so I was sponsoring a kid that worked on the truck with me last year. I would invite people to come along, people that I knew that had strong recovery, but we'd take the truck, or we'll just take pizzas to Ridgeview Rehab in Gibsonia, where kids are sentenced, and they're sentenced for as a second chance program, very similar, same exact rehab facility that I went to the adult version of. So when I pulled in, I got the chills. It's a pyramid rehab, and it's where I found God in this pyramid rehab, where I met God, and the day that changed my life. So I get to go. I pulled the truck into this pyramid rehab for children, and I can't tell you, I'll get out of my car in that parking lot, and there'll be kids over playing basketball, and I hear Jimmy, and they're all waving their hands. You want to talk about it? I got the chills thinking, just saying it,
That's heavy, man.
But they're so happy to see us coming. We break up their day, we bust them in here, like I said. It's just a huge part of and I tell them every time I'm there, this is my favorite day of the month. It breaks up the work month. We get to go in there, spend the day with them, talk to them.
That's really awesome.
They really enjoy us being there. So
that's heavy, man. And I feel like we should end the interview there, but I gotta ask you about the bar, about the fish tacos, because that's what we gave you the mission behind the Mahi, but what can people expect when they come in here? You told me about the bar. I thought that was a really cool thing. Tell me about the bar. Tell me about the tacos. Tell me about the superficial light stuff. Now that we got the heavy good stuff out of the way.
Well, the place,
fun stuff. Yeah.
My dream, and this all happened in rehab. The court ordered, my sobriety date being the 4th of July, and I was like the 4th of July 2013, which is 6 months almost to the day after I got run over by the car. But it was the day that I had to quit taking all the pain meds. So the last day that I took a drug was the 3rd of July. I got sentenced to this rehab, and it was an inpatient rehab in Wilkinsburg. I had an experience with God in there where He came to me and told me that I was going to be okay in the middle of the night through this extremely bright light that He woke me up with in the middle of the night. And it sounds crazy, and it was the most incredible experience. I woke up the heroin addict that I was sleeping in the same room with, and I shook him and I told him I'd never drink or do another drug again. I just had the greatest high ever. And from that very moment on, I've never desired a drink or a drug. It's been amazing. So what happened to me when I got out of there is they put me in a full inpatient, which I was all day long, every day, 5 days a week in Gateway Rehab. And in that rehab facility, I met all these young people that worked for the guy like me. So this was a dream that all came together here, and I don't even know how it did. A recovered heroin addict painted this with spray cans, the beautiful paint in here. There's almost 32 cans of spray paint. A friend of mine that I had lost touch with because he and his family couldn't be around me anymore, came and helped move the things out of my house after I got hit by a car and built this bar. The people that came together and helped here has been amazing. What I get out of this every day, to see the happiness of the people that are working in the industry that they love, and they have a safe place to do it. And it's become this instant family that we have here, that everybody's counting on each other and relying on each other, and you don't want to let each other down, which is huge for us in recovery. It's a group, and you don't want to let anybody down. You feel like you might take them with you. You might kill the guy next to you.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
It's been an amazing experience. I built the bar so that anybody that's struggling out there, if you have family members, if your children are struggling, they can come in here and sit down at this bar. It was something that I needed in early recovery. I needed a place to go. I was all by myself. I didn't want to go sit in a booth at an IHOP. I wanted to come somewhere and just sit down. And if you come here and sit down, there's no alcohol at this bar, and the guy behind the bar is in recovery. So
Yeah.
just like a regular bar where you go and
Yeah.
spill your guts to the bartender, only they don't care. You
Yeah.
know, this
Yeah.
person cares.
Yeah,
So
cool.
it's- Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
It all came together just as God wanted it to, you know. And the
That's
support
awesome.
that I have is amazing.
That's ridiculous. I can't talk about. Here's the deal. I told Jimmy before we got on this interview, I said, we're going to do a giveaway. We're not doing a giveaway. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you should come and check out Mission Mahi because it's a freaking awesome place. And it doesn't matter if it's given. I mean, we did this in our own industry as well. It's not about the money. It's not about the giveaway. It's not about anything. It's about good people, good services with great hearts, and in this guy's case, a freaking mission. And so whether you're coming out to hang out, just have lunch, or whether you need to talk to somebody, or if you know someone that needs to talk to somebody, man, you got to check it out, man. You got to come out. So, any last words to?
Yeah, and if they
folks?
can't, we are giving away because
All right.
if there's anybody that can't afford to come here and they need to come here, I'll give you a free cup of coffee. I'll buy you lunch. You know, just come in and sit down and mention this. Mention Dr. Ian's wonderful.
That's right. Mention their interview. Yeah,
The fact that this guy, just stopped in. It's nothing happened by accident. God sends people, and He sent 1,000 people for this place to take place.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. See you next time. Bye now.